Very quiet, subdued. I know that Tennessee really, they don't care much about playing Florida. No, I think it's going to be a wild, raucous environment. I get the sense that Big Orange Nation they're not hungry. They're starving to death. I mean, I counted it up. I think they've lost 41 of their last 44 rivalry games. We've got the big three, being Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. And, that's not drawing an exact delineation for a certain year, just like when the streak of futility sort of started with each series. And I think to get over the hump against Florida, a game that they should win, if they're favored to win, if they have the better team, and to be able to do it could be kind of a cathartic thing, and one of those landmark moments that let you take a step forward, big step forward in your program. Not that Florida's a world beater, don't get me wrong, but there's some mental baggage to get rid of that Tennessee can get rid of on Saturday.
What are you expecting on the field?
I think Florida better slow the game down. I think Florida better be able to run the ball to keep Tennessee's offense off the field, because I think that Tennessee can win on the outside, and obviously that's what they do extraordinarily well. And if the Gators get into a game where they're having to try to keep up and match scores, that is not going to go well. Anthony Richardson's wildly talented. He hasn't played very well the last couple of weeks, so that's always a little bit of a wild card. He has the ability to make huge game-changing plays, but there's still a growth curve going there for me. So I think Tennessee has a huge advantage on the field in the game. I think they can get enough stops on defense that is really going to put a lot of pressure on Anthony to make plays. And I just came back to visit with Hendon a little bit, and I think he's really locked in, confident, ready to play well.
We should talk about the Tennessee offense. Are they one of those teams out there that might have a puncher's chance against Georgia this year?
If anybody does, I'll be honest in that based on, it's only 3 weeks now. I mean, so things can change. But there's a big gap, in my judgment, from the top 3 and the rest of the country. But there's also a gap, a smaller one, from the way they play between Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama. It's not a big one, but there is a gap there. But any time that you can get quick scores and maybe get somebody's head spinning a little bit, and you have a multitude of weapons, and you can get chunk plays, that's the formula to be able to beat a team that probably top to bottom is better than you. So, if they can get a few stops when that game comes around, they would be one of the teams that would have the weapons to maybe give Georgia problems if things, you get off to a good start, things go well early, but I think they ought to take care of business on Saturday first, and then start lining up the Tide and the Dogs later on.
I know Desmond told us that we should maybe pump the brakes on Stetson Bennett Heisman Trophy talk when I asked him about that. What are your thoughts about the early Heisman Trophy race, and what do you think Bennett would need to do to be a finalist or maybe win the award?
Keep playing the way he's playing. Stetson's good, man. I've been saying this for 2 years. I don't know how many more ways you can say it. You cannot like it because he was a 0-star or whatever he was. You cannot like it because he went to community college. You cannot like it because the offensive coordinator and the head coach didn't want him to be the quarterback for a while. Dude's good. He can play. He's legit. He's not some fancy little cute story. He's a baller, and people might as well get used to it. That guy can play. So now, is he an NFL prospect? I don't know. I see a lot of dudes in the NFL on Sundays that don't do some of the things he does. So maybe he's a backup in the league, but he plays on a really good team. He's got weapons. He's going to put up numbers. You guys know that he's got 3 straight games with over 250 yards passing and a rushing touchdown. You say, oh, well, so what? You know who's done that in SEC history? 2 people, Tim Tebow and Jonathan Football, John Manziel. They're the only ones. And Stetson's got 3, and he can match Tebow with 4 tomorrow if he plays long enough. But I think the dude's good, man. I mean, he didn't take the traditional path, but I think he can be in the fight to the very end because Georgia's going to win a bunch of games and he's going to put up a bunch of numbers.
I know.
Other than that, I have no opinion on Stetson Bennett.
I know all the eyes are on the quarterbacks tomorrow, but what's an impact player on either team that's not a QB?
Probably Hyatt for Tennessee. He's gonna have to make some big plays for them tomorrow, some explosive plays, and I think probably controlling Brenton Cox for Florida. If they can, if they could disrupt Tennessee's offense, get them behind the chains, get some pressure on them. That's not really what they do, until third down. But if they could get them off schedule a little bit, those will be the guys I think that can have a huge impact on the game outside of the quarterback.
What would be your evaluation of the job Josh Heupel has done since he came to Tennessee?
Phenomenal. I mean, just said hello to him and visited with him a couple of minutes ago, and I mean, from where they were, with the number of players who left, with the cloud hanging over the program, for him to put it together as quickly as they have and have them a legitimate top 15 team, and maybe better than that, but certainly right now, do it this quickly, to put his stamp on the program in terms of culture and how they're going to run their offense and get everybody buying in together. It's been phenomenal. Really, really great job by Josh to get it going as quickly as he has, for sure.
Do you think Tennessee can finish the season as a top 10 team?
They're not. I mean, they get Alabama here and they catch them on a good week. Now I know A&M's been down, but with all of the emotion that's going to go into that game for Alabama, if there is a good time to catch Alabama, that would be it. And you get them here. So certainly, if you do that, then you're almost guaranteed, regardless of what happens in Georgia, to be a top 10 team. So I think there's a great chance of it if they, if those are the only two games they lose, if that's the way it goes, and I'm not saying they will, but if that were to be the only two games, you're still top 10, right? I mean, if your two losses are competitive games against Alabama and Georgia, or if you split them, you might be better than top 10 if you split them. But if you lose those two and you're competitive in both of them, I would say you for sure have a chance to finish in the top 10.
Do you think Tennessee has a mental block against Florida? I mean, it's been a long time.
Yes, I do. Now, whether that extends to this particular team and this particular coaching staff, I'm a firm believer, as silly as it sounds, the collective psyche of the fans, players feel that. They're human. They know that they need to win this game. They know it's huge for the direction of the program, the perception of the program, for the way the fans feel about everything. You lose 16 out of 17 to somebody. It's baggage that you've got to get rid of. So the answer is yes. Everybody likes, oh, last year has nothing to do with it. Any little thing that weighs on your subconscious can impact performance. It can make you try a little too hard. It can make you go, I've got to make this play, even if you don't realize you're doing it. And then it doesn't take a lot for here we go again to set in. So yes, I do think, if you're asking for predictions, which you weren't, I do think they'll overcome it Saturday. But if you're asking going into the game, do they have a mental hurdle to overcome? You bet they do. You bet they do.
Gene mentioned that last time y'all were here in 2016 for the Florida-Tennessee game, you guys kind of embarrassed him with the picture when he was a walk-on here.
Who did we embarrass?
Gene, when he was a walk-on
Gene
here.
Wojciechowski?
Do you guys have anything planned for him tomorrow?
No, Gene's doing a great piece on the history of the rivalry. I don't think we have anything to embarrass Gene, but I've got something up my sleeve for someone else. So you have to stay tuned and wait on that.
You shared you got to talk with Hendon Hooker. Can you share a little bit about the strengths that you feel like he has in getting to have that conversation with him?
Well, you know what? The reason I went to talk to him mostly for something on my social media platforms, I'm not trying to plug it, but I mostly wanted to talk to him about the book that he and his brother wrote. So we did talk a little football afterwards, but my primary reason for going over to visit with him was I wanted to talk about the book and why and how he uses it and the impact and all those things. He's one thing we do with these players is we call them kids. He's not a kid. He's a grown man. He's a mature adult, and he's really, really impressive. And I think that also is evident on the field, in addition to the way he carries himself off.
You say he's impressive. Can you share a little bit more about why you feel that way, and how does that help him as a leader for his team?
I think one of the biggest things is it hasn't been smooth, right? He lost the job at Virginia Tech and didn't win the job here. And he just kept working. And as he told me earlier, he really relied on his faith. And when times get tough, things start moving fast, he says that he really meditates and relies on that. And he takes his witness seriously. And those types of things, regardless of what your belief system might be as a teammate, when you see somebody that is sincere and devout and genuine, you can get behind that dude. And I think it's pretty obvious that Tennessee's team has. I mean, what better example than the backup quarterback? Backup quarterback didn't transfer. That happens across college football, right? And I'm not saying it's just because of Hendon. That's it speaks well for Joe too. But you have to be a really good dude in order to maintain the relationship with the guy who took your job. And I think that speaks volumes for Hendon and for Joe, for that matter.
What do you think the difference is in his offense with and without Cedric Thomas since he's a freshman?
Well, I think anytime that you have a weapon like that, and if he's not 100% or whatever the situation might be with Cedric come Saturday, it's a security blanket for Hendon. It's a guy he's developed a connection with, and so you have to find someone to step in and get that. Luckily, they do have Jalen Hyatt, who I think he also has a good connection with. But look, you lose a weapon like that, it's a big deal. And so if he's not 100% or whatever the situation might be with him on Saturday, then it'll be a blow. But I don't think a devastating one.
That's all the time we have. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Okay,